Welcome to the first ever WWll podcast. Today we're going to be sharing a few stories from brave men from the past. So first up, we have Josh here, one of the co-owners of WWll. He's going to share his story that he has prepared for us. Are you ready?
Yeah, this story is absolutely insane. It's a grizzly bear attack by a mountain biker. So this man named Colin Dowler, 47-year-old from Vancouver Island, he was going out for his daily mountain bike trip. He's super into mountain biking, and he usually goes every single morning. And he says that at Vancouver Island, there's tons of bears, right? There's a lot of black bears.
Didn't they film Alone there?
Yeah, that
was where they filmed it?
Yeah, one of the episodes there. And so there's tons of black bears and grizzly bears. Grizzly bears are like the head honchos of the bears. Huge 400, 500, 600 pound bears. So he's going on his mountain bike for his morning ride. Mm-hmm. And he's going the same path that he's always taken. So he's super comfortable with this path. And he knows like the back of his hand, every left turn, right turn. And he's going around this bend where you can't see around the corner. And where he usually just like hauls, he starts going a little slower. And for some reason, like the hair on his back was sticking up. He turns the corner and he sees a huge grizzly bear in the middle of the path. And which is surprising because he's never seen grizzly bear before there. He would just see black bears. With black bears, he would just yell at them and make his presence known. They would just kind of scurry off. So he tried doing that with his grizzly bear. It was about, I think he said it was about 30 yards in front of him on this path around the corner. And he yelled at it to try to get it to go away. And the bear just stared and looked at him. He was just staring at him, this 500-pound grizzly bear on his mountain bike. So he ended up getting off his mountain bike because he knew that like grizzly bears are super predatory. So if you start making movements and loud, like big moves or run away, it usually triggers an attack response. Yeah. So he ended up getting off his mountain bike because you can't outride a grizzly bear on a mountain bike. He got off his mountain bike to not make any sudden movements, and he was just sitting there watching this grizzly bear, and the grizzly bear started walking towards him. And so he started going, hey, like, get out of here, bear, trying to shoo it off. And it just sparked the grizzly bear's interest a little bit. But so the grizzly bear's walking at him, and he ended up trying to, how do you like visualize this? So he's off his bike. The grizzly bear, this path is pretty narrow. And the grizzly bear's walking right next to him. He can literally pet the grizzly bear, he's that close to him. And the bear just kind of walks past him, doesn't look at him, just kind of walks past him. He's like, okay, we're good. Then he looked back a little bit, and the bear stops and kind of spins his head a little bit, looks at him, comes over to him, sniffs him a little bit, and he's trying to put the bike in front of him. I don't know. You do what this guy tried to do. So he had this bike in between him and the bear. The bear wasn't like aggressive. He was just kind of sniffing him a little bit, and then he started swatting at him a little bit, like play swats, like hitting him. And so he's like, holy crap, trying to put this bike further in between him. He has his hiking pole that he pulled out of his backpack to kind of like jab at the bear because the end's pretty pointy. So he's trying to keep the bear like a little bit of distance. The bear's not aggressive yet, swatting at him. But every swat, the bear starts hitting him harder and harder until he just finally swats him super hard, grabs him in his mouth, takes him to the floor. This guy's like trying to poke him with his hiking stick, freaking out. The bear is literally grabs a huge chunk of his thigh and rips that whole part of his thigh out. He says it was so excruciating, and the noises, he could hear the bear chewing on his femur, and he could feel like he said it was like a dog chewing on a bone, that sound, like, because it was literally biting his femur, tearing it off. And so this guy was pretty much, he was losing a ton of blood. He started feeling like lights going out a little bit. He remembered he had a pocket knife, a little 3-inch pocket knife in his back. And so he was trying to get to it as the bear was on top of him. And he pulls his little 3-inch pocket knife out. And as hard as he could, jams it through the bear's neck as he's like getting mauled by this bear. Jabs it through the bear's neck and then stops. And he said just a fountain of blood poured all over him from this grizzly bear. Like it literally just started waterfalling blood from the neck. He says, so as soon as he stabbed him and blood was just pouring out, he must have hit him in like a femoral artery or whatever that artery is right there. So blood's pouring out on top of him, and this bear gets up a little bit, walks over to the dude's bike, smells the bike a little bit, and then just walks off. And so this guy ends up getting on his bike, coming to his senses, almost passing out from his own blood loss. It's so hard to like take a deep breath and keep going. So this guy, he gets back on his bike, almost passing out, makes it to it's a logging community, so there's loggers out there. And so he finds a little logging shack stumbles into the logging shack, yells like, "Hey, somebody help me!" And luckily there was 5 loggers there who just got into their shift for that night's logging rounds. And these 5 guys, he says when they at first glance they saw him, they just like, "Oh, what just happened to you?" They were super taken back.
Well, yeah, he's got blood all over him probably.
Yeah, and they said some of his wounds were so bad his kidney was hanging out, like on his back. The bear had mauled him so bad they could see his kidneys.
Jeez.
And so they started doing first aid, stabilizing him a little bit. They were able to call medevac, and within an hour the helicopters came. They gave him 2 pints of blood right there on the cabin floor, and he ended up being saved. So they took him to the hospital. Took him about, how long did it take? Took him about 40 days to recover, 24 days to get filling back in his legs. And so it took him 40 days to recover. He started walking, and within that 24 days, by the end of his recovery, he was able to run a marathon. So he made a full recovery. But how it's so beast with a 3-inch blade, literally stabbed a bear in the neck, gush of blood. Like, that is a man right there.
You get a chance with a 3-inch knife.
Yeah, the thing how lucky you had to get.
Hit the artery.
So they say 3 inches is not. So in this case,
3 inches is average.
3 inches was plenty. Don't let any other bear tell you otherwise.
You did the job.
3 inches, that's all you need. It's about placement.
I hate when bears say 3 inches at long.
Hey,
Dude.
motion of the ocean.
Dude, 3 inches is plenty.
Well, the knife I carry is pretty average, man. If 3 inches is plenty.
So you'll be fine against a bear.
All right, so the story I got prepared for today is this guy named Woody Williams. He's a farmer. I think he's from West Virginia. Yeah, West Virginia, a farmer from West Virginia during World War II in the Pacific Theater. He went to battle, and he just got a really cool story. And of course, he's a farmer. It's interesting how it's always, I swear, in every war story, the most heroic people are farmers or really just kind of more rugged people. You don't find too much like inner city
folk
war heroes. You know what I'm saying? It's just interesting how there's a few, but I feel like just the way you're raised on a farm, you're just kind of built different usually. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this story. I got it from online. So it's a really cool story. It shocked me, so that's why I came to share it with you guys today. So it was 1943, so it said Woody joined the Marines and was promptly shipped off to the Pacific Theater a few months later. He was a dairy farmer, and it said he was a flamethrower. He trained to be a demolition man, and so he was the guy that carried the flamethrowers and did all that kind of stuff, did the explosives.
That would be like the worst job in my mind.
I feel like you're just
you're like the number one target on the battlefield.
Target. You're
an
just
explosive can of.
Exactly.
Have you seen those videos of the flamethrower pack blowing up?
Yeah, and
they just
everyone
get
around you
fire.
too. So it's a sketchy job.
Man.
So he helped take Guam, but apparently Guam wasn't. It was a different type of warfare. They said it was much more jungle.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what he was used to. And then he was a huge key in taking the island of Iwo Jima. And so it said he made it to Iwo Jima, and they were just kind of stuck. And it was saying where Guam, you had a bunch of cover. There was forest. It was jungle. There was trees. Where Guam or Iwo Jima, it's been hit so hard by all the artillery that it was just wiped clean. He said there's nothing on the island. Your best form of cover was just a hole from an artillery shell. And he said you couldn't even dig deeper because it was more marble from all the lava, all the explosion. That it was just like a marble surface, so you couldn't dig yourself any cover. So that's kind of the fighting conditions you were on Iwo Jima. So they were in this battle, and it was just kind of a standstill. The Japanese had way strong strongholds. They just kind of had these foxholes that they were hidden in. You couldn't really penetrate them. And so the tanks were struggling to move on the sand as well, he was saying. And so eventually the tanks got a foothold, and they were moving up. And so he kind of volunteered himself to be the man that went and demoed, whatever you call that, the foxholes. So apparently he ran, grabbed some flamethrowers from some of the equipment, and he grabbed that flamethrower, and he himself charged with the tanks on top of a foxhole. So he was the first one to get on top of a foxhole.
Like the bunkers? Or
like the bunker. Maybe I'm saying the wrong thing. It's a bunker.
It's like a fortified bunker.
Yeah. So he jumped on top of one.
Like holes when they would shoot.
Exactly, so they couldn't penetrate them. And he said they would hit the walls with bazookas from the outside, and it did nothing because they were built so strong. The concrete was so thick. And so they couldn't really do anything. And so that's why this was the alternative, is they didn't get up close and personal. You couldn't just artillery shell, bazooka.
Get in the hole.
Yeah, you had to get in there. Jeez. So he was the first one. He was charging up there with his flamethrower. and he charged up and jumped on top of one of these bunkers, and it said there was a vent on top of the bunker, and he just stuck his flamethrower in that vent and just gassed it or pumped it full of flames. And he said that just killed everyone inside because just the heat, the fire just got everywhere because he just gassed it in there. So for doing this, he received the Medal of Honor for his bravery, and no one asked him to do this. That's why he won all these medals. That's why he was so praised in this fight, is there wasn't any commander that told him to go do this. He just saw the opportunity, stood up, ran and grabbed one of the flamethrowers, and just charged by himself. So he was just recognized for his bravery because no one asked him. He did this out of his own desire and will. And so they just claimed this single act was one of the pushing factors in taking the island of Iwo Jima. Wow. And so he received the Medal of Honor and a whole bunch of other medals for his bravery that day. But that's a man right there. That's a man right there. He deserves unlimited man cards.
That's crazy.